Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute and YouTube, Speaking Podcast. I also have the Awakening Podcast, the Learn Polish Podcast, and the Meditation Podcast, and all can be found on roycollin.com. I always love to have people from all over the world. It's my mission to have somebody from every country. And today, thankfully, I've got somebody from Australia. Please welcome Eddy Segal.
Thank you very much, Roy. Thank you very much. And I should probably say g'day from Australia.
G'day, matey.
G'day, mate. We don't all speak like that, by the way.
No. Just the Irish that moved there, I suppose. They tried to fit in better.
Most likely, yeah.
So I always like to, it's better you tell the audience who you are rather than me reading a script.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. So my name's Eddy Segal. I have a company called Acting Up Coaching, and what I do is I help people overcome limiting habits and beliefs, and I help them to use their store of natural resources to perform at their best in the arena of public speaking and presenting. So in effect, I help them to perform the best versions of themselves time and time again through my company, Acting Up.
Excellent. So, obviously you've got the acting background. At what age did you start that? Where did you begin your kind of getting comfortable? Were you always acting?
No, you know what? It's a funny story, actually. I began acting when I moved to a country town. I went to a small school when I was 10. And I'd never shown any interest in it before, but there was a girl that I really liked. And at this school, so small, your extracurricular activities were restricted to you did sport or you did theatre or drama. And I heard that she was doing theatre and drama, and so I quickly signed up to do it as well. And I actually found out afterwards that I was lied to and she was doing sport. So here I was in this drama class, but I met a man who is today still my mentor. And he got me on the path and made me passionate about acting and the craft of acting. And that's where I began. So it was about 10 when I started. And I just got involved in small local productions. And then, I went to probably the most prestigious university in the state that I was in and studied there, and then went on from there.
When you're studying the acting, how long is that? Because, some people think that people are just born gifted to be actors. Is there a lot of work involved in it?
Well, yeah, your standard courses probably run, or the big ones run for 3 years. The one I did went for 3 years. But you're right, Roy. It's a funny one. It's how do you teach something that's so instinctive in a lot of ways and so organic in a lot of ways? And the answer to that is there is a lot that comes naturally. Yes, there are a lot of people who are natural performers that do it naturally. And there are a lot of great actors who haven't studied, and you don't need to study. But there are also a lot of aspects to acting that are what I'd like to term as the sciences of acting. And that delves into the work that I do a lot. And briefly, there is a lot that comes organically, but you need to be able to articulate that. You need to be able to express that well. And as an actor, your body and your voice is your instrument, and you need to be able to fine tune that instrument. You need to be an expert at using that instrument, just like a concert violinist would be an expert at using their violin. So there's work and there's practice and there's training that goes into those aspects. But also a lot of it comes down to just the doing of it. A lot of the benefits to studying and going to an institution is that you get the opportunity to work with some of the best practitioners, best directors, set designers, and you get to actually practice your craft. So a lot of it comes from the doing as well.
And, you mentioned, from the young age, you've had the mentor who's still with you. I think that's very important. Yeah. Some people think they get to 11 and it's like, yeah, I don't need this anymore. It's always good to have somebody, that's got your back, basically, that you can, have conversations.
Oh, with. Yeah, oh, definitely. And someone that is just a sounding board that you can trust and rely on. And it's funny. He obviously, I'm a bit older now and he's a bit older. And we're sort of at this time now where he is of an age where he may not be around for very long. And I'm now of an age where I'm I feel a sense of responsibility, if you like, to take over, you know, and to sort of assume that role myself, and to be that person for the younger generation. And it's a big sense, it's a big responsibility, and it's a big burden, but it's a really interesting period, I guess, in my life. Yeah.
And with, like, you know, speaking, I think, because I've seen competitions, and anyone with the acting experience have a huge advantage, because they're not just speaking, they're doing the acting and the speaking.
That's yeah. That's exactly right. But when you say doing the acting, I mean, you're exactly right, because they have a very keen awareness of how to use their instrument, but also the importance of the relationship with the audience. And I think that's really key, as you no doubt will be aware of in your experience as well. But I love to. There's a, you know, before I'd met my mentor, I had dabbled in it a little bit, and there's a great story that I've shared on social media before. But I entered a local Stedford competition just prior to doing this, and it was quite small. There wasn't a lot of contestants, and I actually entered. I think it was my parents entered me into the public speaking contest, and I came second in it, but I was the only contestant. I know, and now that I think, you know, I think back on it now, I think how terrible these judges obviously thought that I was so terrible, or I was so inept at doing it, that they couldn't possibly award me a first place. I think back now as a parent and think about how demoralizing and how restricting that would have felt, or how belittling, and, you know, as a child of I must have been 10 or 12 or something like that. But the point of the story is that I certainly needed the help. I was a shy child. I was entered into the competition with my parents' best intentions, feeling that this would be something that would help me. In fact, it probably had the opposite, but I was lucky to meet my mentor shortly after, and then that just took me on a wonderful journey, to the point where I performed for state theatre companies. In one particular production, which I can think of, I had to perform naked in front of hundreds of people. And so that journey from being the terrible public speaking 10-year-old to being the adult who's brave enough and has the ability to embrace that vulnerability to be naked in front of that many people, physically and emotionally. It's been a wonderful journey, and I think that's where the value, certainly for me, has come from acting, and I think that's where the value comes, and where the benefits lie for others who I work with through acting up. So that's the journey that I love, that I've experienced firsthand, and that I love. So
connecting with the audience, then what tricks? I mean, obviously not naked, because you don't want to be connecting when you're naked. But
that's probably going a bit far. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Connecting with the audience, and in a lot of ways that involves connecting with yourself. And one of the first points that I'm quick to point out when talking to people is breaking down a misconception about acting, which a lot of people have, which is this idea that acting is about pretense, that acting is about being fake, you know, that you're pretending to be someone else. Whereas, in fact, any good actor will tell you that it's the opposite, that good acting requires self-exploration. It requires digging deep, delving into those nooks and crannies, those parts and those aspects of your own personality that connect with the character that you have to portray. And that's where it is supremely helpful in, I feel, and a lot of people agree, in the space of presenting and public speaking. Because we often have to get up, we often have to perform at times when we don't feel like it. We don't feel, you know, the passion that we had has gone, or perhaps we never had it. Perhaps we're in the unfortunate position where we have to talk about something that we have no passion about. And that's where acting helps you to find that passion, to find those aspects of your personality that can connect, that can give you that energy, that can give you that momentum, that can help to connect with your audience and get your audience passionate about what you're talking about, because that's really what we want to be doing when we're public speaking.
Very good.
Yeah.
And like if you're in the theater, I mean, sometimes you could be doing a very long show. So there's a lot of words. What's your strategy? Are you constantly reading, rehearsing? What's the rehearsal process for something like that?
In terms of the learning the words, is that?
Yeah, like, because I mean, realistically, when you're acting, you're speaking, and you have to, you can't kind of, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing Romeo and Juliet, you can't kind of wing it, because people know.
No, you can't. You could try. I'd like to see someone successfully trying ad-lib Shakespeare. That would be interesting and a real talent. No. I mean, my response to that as an actor and as a presentation and performance coach is learn it straight away, get it inside you anyway, so you know it backwards, forwards, sideways, upside down, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to learn a speech. As an actor, you do it so often that it becomes just like a muscle. You've exercised it that well that you are proficient at getting those words in. I mean, Shakespeare is a great example. He gives us the beautiful iambic pentameter, the rhythm that helps you to learn it. But that's not always the case. I mean, some scripts that I've had to learn haven't had the benefit of that. If you've got a good script, there's a logical sequence to thoughts that helps you to learn it. But really, it's a muscle. And what I say to my clients is, with any presentation, learn it. Get it under your skin. Learn it, because I know from firsthand experience working with hundreds of actors that once you've learned it to a point where you are bored with it, where you are sick and tired of it, then something magic happens. And that's the moment where breakthroughs happen, where the performance gets elevated. Because when we're bored with something, what do? We start to play with it, right? We start to find ways to have fun with it. We're like a cat with one toy that they play with all the time. We find, or kids when they're bored on school holidays and they've got one thing to do, and they find games, they find ways to kind of play with it. And that's where the great stuff comes in. And that's where the exploration comes in. And that's where the development of variety comes in your tone, in your pitch, in your cadence, and in your meter. That's where all the great stuff happens. And I've seen it time and time again. That's where the breakthroughs come through. So I know people can be varied about in their opinions on what they want to do. I know a lot of people feel that learning the script too thoroughly can inhibit them, can make them sound robotic. And look, if that's the feeling for you, and if you've tried it and it doesn't work, then, and if you can feel freer and you are confident enough to ad-lib if you need to, it's fantastic. But in my opinion, get that script under your skin and start having fun with it.
And if it's like a big script, do you do it in stages where you would make sure you get, say it's 3 pages that you'd learn that, or do you read through the whole lot, just keep reading through the whole lot? And the other thing is, would you record it as well and be listening in the car or when you're out and about?
Yeah. I like that one. I like that. Yeah, in stages. If we're looking at a big theatre, yes, obviously, because if you're doing a production that's 2 hours long, or perhaps even longer sometimes, yes, you would learn it in stages. But one of the great techniques that I work with, again with my clients when they're learning a presentation, is to record it onto your phone. Is a great way to do it. Record it onto your phone and then play it and listen to it while you're going on a walk, or while you're going on a long bike ride or something like that. Because what happens then is that the association between the scenery, the changing scenery, and the words that you're hearing will help you to remember the speech, because your brain has more stimulus with which to attach those words to. It's a really good technique. I use it a lot. It works really well. I actually got it from, in Australia here, we have a very popular music how would you describe it? It's like a countdown, a music countdown. It's like every year they have the hottest 100 songs from this radio station. And there's a man who has learnt it every year for the past 20 years. He knows every song in order, name, band, for the last 20 years. He can do it. And that's his strategy. He'll just listen while they're playing it. He'll listen to it. He'll go for a long bike ride. And then he can associate. He can, right, I was turning that corner. I saw that tree when that song was playing. He's got more stimulus with which to remember it. So a really good strategy to remembering a speech. Play it while you're walking, and then let the association do the work.
No, and I think it's important for everybody to kind of do that, because a lot of times people kind of stay locked in their room, keep reading it, and what happens is they get bored and they just get frustrated with themselves, and they don't get to, and they start beating themselves up, and then their mood goes down. And the secret is to just, as you say, stimulate, get out, do different scenery and different environment.
That's it. Get out, because the more senses you've got working for you, the more handles you're putting on the door. In a sense, because remember, memory is not just about remembering; it's also about retrieving. So you've got to store it store it there, but also got to make it easier for you to be able to retrieve that information. So it's kind of like, I'm actually borrowing that analogy from who was it? The guy that wrote Brain Rules. It's a really good book, actually. He describes it as putting more handles on the door. You're attaching more stimulus to it. Yeah.
Right.
Get out of the room. Learn your speech elsewhere. Get out. Go for a walk.
Brilliant. The other thing then is, connecting with the audience is storytelling. So you might, give us some tips and tricks on the storytelling to be able to, because at the end of the day, I feel anytime I'm doing a speech, one, I want to see what I can actually give to the audience, and two, I know a story is 10 times better than just kind of facts and points. So.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's right. Well, there's the old adage of facts tell, stories sell, and that's so true, isn't it? I mean, from the beginning of time, we've always passed messages on by way of story, and again, story adds more stimulus. There's emotional connection to it, so it enables the audience to be able to grasp onto the message. So when telling stories, I always think it's always important to be on topic, to make the story relevant, because the audience doesn't want to be manipulated, and they're very quick to tell when you're just trying to entertain them without any substance. Be efficient as well, because the audience, their time is precious, and you don't want to be taking up too much time with long-winded stories. But if you are going to tell a long-form story, I always think that the 3-act structure works really well. And this also works really well for interviews, by the way. And the 3-act structure really is, you've got the challenge, what is driving you, motivating the beginning. You've got the crisis, the thing that makes it difficult. What made this difficult? And what challenges, what crises did you face? And then you've got the resolution. If you can follow just a little bit on each of those 3 acts in your story, then it brings a nice narrative arc to your story. And it's something that we all relate to, the audience all relate to, because the audience all can connect to this feeling of embarking on something, that being difficult, but then that being overcome and a lesson being learned one way or another in the end. And that's a great structure to provide. It's a classic structure. It comes from the Greeks thousands of years ago, and it's been spread down through time. Joseph Campbell talks about it in The Hero's Journey in a much more long-winded way. I mean, you can look at 26-act structure stories, and there's also the 5-act is popular as well. But just keep it nice and simple. 3-act structure: challenge, the crisis, the resolution. But also with telling stories, you've got to be aware. You've got to buy people's attention when you're telling a story. So powerful openers are really important. The first minute needs to buy the next 10. So you've got to come in hard. You've got to appeal to emotion, you've got to appeal to pathos, and you need to just keep it general. Just keep it gist. We absorb information, we want the gist, and then go into detail. So don't go straight into the heavy detail. Just give us the gist, make it emotional so we can latch onto it, either through curiosity or through desire or through fear or through arousal, in any way. Come in hard, come in fast, come in with something that's punchy and grabby, and then go into the story. But certainly, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can tell stories, but the importance can't be understated, can't be overstated for storytelling.
No, that's excellent advice. Excellent advice. And I know you've done sales before, but also I assume when you're an actor, you're kind of pitching as well. So what can you with whether a person is doing sales or you're trying to get a position, because it's the same for maybe a speaker who's trying to be on the keynote speaker or something, because you're constantly pitching. It's all sales. Everything is sales. So
sales, yeah. Is that what you're saying? Asking, is that
basically your tips and tricks from your experience, because you've obviously done a lot of acting and you've worked in sales, so I think that's an advantage as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the key thing is the awareness of the objective of what you're there to achieve, and that's something that actors that's a cornerstone to every acting technique, and it's also an important part in presenting and public speaking as well. Being right, as we all know, right, being aware of the objective. What's your audience-focused objective? And actors are very keenly aware of that, simply because it's what we do in ordinary everyday life. Whenever we communicate, there's a clear objective to why we're doing it, and that's the same in sales. You want to be very clear about the result or the response or the reaction that you want from people in sales. So that's one aspect of it. I think the other is being attuned to your audience and being flexible and being able to work with different audiences. You may communicate in a certain way with a certain demographic or a certain audience, and then you are aware that you need to tailor that and adjust that when you're dealing with another audience. So it's that awareness, again, it's that intrinsic understanding of the actor-audience relationship. And I think there's no genre where that works or where that's evident more so than when you're doing comedy. I think, and I've always said that comedians make the best actors. And if you look at examples like Robin Williams, or there's a ton of other great examples, because comedic actors especially need to be really aware of how their audience are responding. Are they getting the reaction from their audience that they need? Because it's in their face. If they're not laughing, if your audience isn't laughing, you haven't won. You haven't done your job. And so it's evident straight away whether you're working or not. And so they are super, super in tune with whether they're connecting with their audience and whether they're achieving their objective, whether they're getting the reaction, or whether they're eliciting that reaction or not. And so comedy is really, really hard. And I urge anyone who wants to broaden their comfort zones, who wants to expand their public speaking repertoire, to try and do some stand-up. Give it a go. Challenge yourself. You'll probably fall on your ass. You'll probably die a dismal death. But you know what? By doing it, just simply doing it, simply getting up there and doing it, it does wonders to your confidence and your comfort zone and your range of expression. So I think that's a really great tool, a really great experience to have up your sleeve.
I did a comedy open mic, and it's a great experience, and it actually went on very well, but I was extremely nervous because you just don't know, like if you're doing a Toastmaster meeting, people are happy and they're clapping in no matter what. But when you're in an open mic, nobody knows you, and if you're not funny, they're not laughing, they can even be offensive at times, but it just worked out for me. It was a great experience, and I'd encourage people to, definitely to try it. It's wonderful.
That's fantastic. And did you feel afterwards that your public speaking skills or your comfort levels had evolved and grown as a result of that experience?
I think after that, because I've entered a few competitions and I did the humorous speech in Toastmasters and I got into the final. I didn't win anything in it, but I got into the final of 5 countries. So I got about 4 or 5 levels.
Really?
Yeah. So, and
yeah.
And I had, everybody in the room on the final laughing. I actually thought I was going to win it because I was listening to the other people, and one of them was doom and gloom, and it wasn't funny at all. And but you just don't know. But I think the experience and just, I'm not afraid to, do stupid things, throw myself on the ground, or just use the facial expressions. And it's strange because I know I came from where I'm only 4 years public speaking, so I came from being extremely shy, and I think. Yeah. Sometimes it's a way of kind of, I don't care, and then when you do that, you get such a buzz because, you're making people happy, making people laugh. They're coming up to you afterwards and they're recalling something that you've said. And yeah, it's a great feeling.
That's fantastic. Well done. Well done. That's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, because as you point out, it's very easy for people to clap politely or to, come up after the show and say, oh, well done. That was a marvelous performance. But comedy, it's like performing to children. If they're not interested, you can't fake laugh that convincingly. And as I say, it's the other one is performing to children, because they'll tell you straight away if they're not interested. I mean, they'll just get up and walk away. So that's a great experience as well, to help you really become in tune with that relationship with that audience, because it's all about the audience. I mean, that's the thing that's really important to know, isn't it? They're the boss. When you're performing, when you're presenting, when you're public speaking, it's all about them.
Yeah. And I think that's the goal, because there's a lot of speakers out there, and it's about the speaker, their ego. And once you're there for the message, for the audience, that's your mission, it tends to go very well, and I think just make sure that you're bringing value.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the techniques that I work with to help with confidence and nerves as well, because it has a twofold benefit. Not only does it remind you, not only does it ensure that you are working for the audience, which you should be doing, but also it helps to relieve the nerves, because as soon as you start to focus on the audience-focused objective, on the audience-based objective, you start to put that focus on them, it takes the focus off you. So it takes the focus off your concerns over whether you've got the words down right, or whether your intonation is in the right place, or whether forget about that. Because it's really all about, are you eliciting the reaction that you want from your audience? Are you getting that reaction from your audience? No? Well, try something new, do something different, play around with that. It can't be overstated, can it? I mean, and it's great. It's wonderful because it does have that twofold benefit, and it helps to calm and relieve the nerves as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And like when people are trembling, what other things can you help them to overcome the stage fright? I mean, because some people, they won't even get up. I remember when I was younger, if they were going around the room, just saying your name and what you do, my brain would just freeze, and I wouldn't even hear 10 people next to me because I'm in panic mode.
Yeah. Well, that's good, and a lot of the work that I do is around that topic. I always make a point of saying that confidence comes from doing. As we all know, the more you do it, the more confident you become. But having said that, though, there are tips and ideas and techniques or mindsets to embrace that can help you with that. One that I work with is it's rename, reassess, and release. And that is rename, meaning to understand that nerves are energy, right? They're energy, it's adrenaline. So rather than say to yourself, oh God, I'm nervous. Oh God, I'm nervous. Say, I'm energized, or I feel adrenalized. So give it another name, and you remove that stigma. Just give it another name, and it's very simple. The other one, reassess. And that is just around the mindset of understanding that why you're nervous. And you're nervous because you care. You're nervous because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. So it comes from a place of positive intention. So remind yourself of that. You care, which is why you're nervous. So reassess it. Don't judge it. Don't judge it too harshly. And the other one is just to release. Okay, and that is just spend some time breathing. I like to encourage my clients to spend some time thinking about something that they're grateful for, because gratitude can be a really great antidote to nerves. Just think about something that you're really grateful for, breathe in gratitude, breathe out that excess nervous energy, and then go in with a calmer peace of mind. And as I say, there's so many, but I mean, I'll just bang on the gratitude thing for a little bit longer. Gratitude, or ingratitude, let's put it, is very similar to nervousness in a lot of ways. Because when we're nervous, we crave, and we have feelings of lack, which is just the same as in gratitude. We crave the audience's praise, their validation, their acknowledgement. And we feel nervous because we feel like we are lacking something, that we are either lacking expertise, or we're lacking authority, or we're lacking credibility. So embracing gratitude can do a lot for appeasing those feelings of nervousness. And it can be very simple. Just be grateful for the opportunity. Be grateful for this opportunity, because you might never get it again. Or be grateful for the free coffee that you got for turning up and presenting and speaking to a group. Be grateful, because when you do, you start to feel those nerves subside, and that joy fills the void. That's a great one. I love that one. Another one that I like, and I'll just finish on this because I could fill your whole podcast with this, but another one that I like is, which I've called Get 'em Naked Without the Awkwardness. And this one is just simply about the practice of turning up before your presentation or your public speaking event and just spending some time in the audience. Just spend some time in there, sitting in the audience and viewing the stage from their perspective and imagining who they might be. Because what you'll find is that we are all the same. We are all the same. We are all beautifully flawed creatures, right? Every emotion, every feeling of nervousness or anxiety or stress that you're feeling right now, your audience, each and every one of them has felt, and probably within the last 24 hours. They've had stress over workload. They've had anxieties over projects handed in, about how certain colleagues might view them or their performance or whatever. They've all experienced those same emotions. So they're the same as you. We're all the same. And I call it Get 'em Naked Without the Awkwardness, because it's sort of an extension on that picture them naked thing. That old bit of advice where, you just rock up and just try and picture your audience sitting there in the nude. It's similar to that, but it's a little less manipulative. It's a little less attempting to ridicule your audience, because you're not trying to expose them physically. You're actually trying to find how you connect and what makes you the same, what makes you shared members of this beautiful species that we all are, emotional species that we all are, So that's a good one as well. But there's a lot to talk about there, and it's mostly about mindset, but a lot about just doing it. Do it as much as you can.
And that's what I always love about to 80 odd podcasts, and every single person brings something different, and nobody has said what you've said there earlier. And I think it's brilliant for people to, take that on board, because people have fear. And I think that what you've said in the last 5 minutes was fantastic. And, it's definitely worth people to take that on board, because it will definitely help them. So
brilliant.
You've done some workshops as well. Have you organized some workshops?
Yeah, I've done some workshops. I've worked with MBA students, with business professionals, with university consultants. Just around those sort of concepts: storytelling, connecting to emotion, connecting to passion, working on the instrument, understanding your vocal and physical expression, and how important that is, particularly the non-verbal expression. I mean, these statistics say, apparently, I don't know who measures this, but only 7% of our meaning comes from the actual words that we speak. So a lot of it comes from those non-verbals. So work on that. But yeah, particularly storytelling and particularly techniques to connect to emotion, because we have to talk with passion, because emotions are contagious. And if we're not passionate about what we're saying, it's very difficult to get the audience passionately listening.
Even the energy and just kind of, the expressions and everything, I think it's got a huge advantage. With the workshops, were they like 2 hours, or would you have done day workshops, or what's typically the... Because I like to see how people structure their workshops, and, do they have little notes on the side, and, do have it broken down, because every single person has a different way of doing it. And I think when people hear your way, something resonates with people and they go, oh, I like this. So I'm just curious what way you organize your, and how long they typically are.
Yeah, so they vary. Well, I mean, they were day-long workshops. I've done a few day-long workshops, which is less and less frequent now, obviously, with the whole COVID situation. So more and more lately, it's virtual workshops, which have been for an hour, typically for an hour, over an extended period of time. So it might be an hour a week for a number of weeks. But in the day workshops, I think it's important to chunk it down into... I try and break it down into 3 main categories throughout the day, and be mindful of attention spans and be sure to mix it up. It's important that it's practical. It's important that it's fun. The last thing people want is someone to be standing up all day and just lecturing at them, or, giving them speeches. So it's practicality, interaction, and fun. I mean, it's got to be fun. I mean, at the end of the day, it's got to be fun, because that's how people learn, and that's how people become inspired to go further with it. So, but look, it's a tricky one to answer, that one, because it does really vary on who the audience is. It depends on the medium, and it depends on what exactly they're after, or what help they're needing, or what's going to benefit them the most. Yeah.
Are you doing any stuff now online because of the craziness going on in the world? Have you have to shift that you're kind of doing presentations or whatever online? Have you been doing the last year?
Yeah, a little bit, mostly one-on-one coaching, to be honest. So mostly working with individual clients who need a bit of assistance with their presentation, with their performances, public speaking performances. I love doing that. I actually love doing the group stuff as well, but it's great when you do the one-on-one stuff. I think because particularly with my work, I like to dig a little deeper. I think that it's important for people to explore their memories and experiences. We do that a little bit, not too heavily. I mean, it's not therapy. I don't want to go anywhere. And in any case, it's important that it's always positive stuff, because we want to be exploring positive emotions.
And you want them to come back as well, because if you go too deep, they'll go, this is depressing me. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
I'm still dealing with the trauma from last session. I can't do it. So you're able to get a little bit deeper when you're working one-on-one with people, because as I said, it's the crux of it, or the great part of it, is helping people to tap into those reserves, because we've all been powerful orators, haven't we? We've all had those moments where we've been driven by passion, and where we've been overjoyed, or we've been grief-stricken, or we've been angry, or we've been infatuated. We've all had those experiences in our lives, and we've all been powerful performers in that time. If you could take those moments, if a Hollywood camera crew just appeared in those moments, filmed you and put up on stage, you'd win an Oscar, possibly. Or at the very least, it would be gripping television. So we all have those experiences, we all have that arsenal within us. It's just a matter of tapping into it and using it effectively, productively. So lately, the work that I've been doing is working one-on-one, working in that way, connecting to emotion, but also then using that to tell stories. And then a little bit about the instrument, making sure that the instrument is tuned so that we're able to tell those stories well in a way that's easy to listen to and a joy to listen to. So that's been good. The physicality stuff I've been missing a little bit. The stuff that's a bit difficult to do virtually. That's more the stuff I've been doing live with groups pre-COVID. That's a big part because physicality is so important, not just to how the messaging that you're giving to your audience, but also to yourself. How you feel, your body speaks your mind, yes, but your mind also speaks your body. And the more in tune you can get with your physicality, that can also be another powerful way to put yourself in a really positive, energized and confident mindset. So there's a lot of great work there as well. So again, I'm not sure if I answered that one as well as I could have, but it varies. It varies. Again, it comes down to the audience's need or the client's need.
And I think, from people listening, they'll realize that you have the skill set and the experience to help them. So how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, okay. So through actingupcoach.com is my website. I'm also on Instagram, Acting Up Coach, LinkedIn, Acting Up Coach. Pretty much if you put Acting Up Coach, one word, you should find me. That's probably the best way. Punch that in. You get my website will have all the links to all my other social media outlets as well. So I'm always posting. I've really come to embrace Instagram and LinkedIn. So you'll find links there and connect with me that way. And I'm always happy to have a chat.
Brilliant. And I'll put all the links on the description below, and also on the video you'll have all the descriptions so people will be able to find you easy. So listen, Eddie, it's been fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Me too. It's been a joy. Thanks, Roy.
And just as well, just quickly, as I always ask people, to send me pictures, and I say funny is better. And you sent me a fantastic picture, and people need to. I just hope it's not your passport picture, but it's a fantastic picture.
My wife hates it. She couldn't believe I sent that one to you, but I said, hey, you wanted a funny one, so anyway. I
loved it. So yeah, listen, it's been brilliant. Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roy.
So that's all for Speaking Podcast. You'll find every episode on speakingpodcast.com or on BitChute and YouTube. Until next week, take care.